2 weeks ago, I was dying to get pregnant. Now I'm praying for a negative test. My husband and I had been trying to have a baby for 3 years with no success, and it was destroying me from the inside out. Every month I'd take a test and see that single line mocking me, and every month I'd cry in the bathroom while he held me and promised we'd keep trying. We'd spent our entire savings on our first round of IVF, and 2 weeks before they'd transferred the embryo into my body. Now I was in the waiting period before I could take a pregnancy test, and every day was torture. I Googled every possible symptom, analyzed every twinge in my body, and drove myself crazy wondering if it had worked. My younger sister Katie had been my rock through all of this. She came over with ice cream when I cried and held my hand during the embryo transfer. Katie was single and focused on her career, always said she didn't want kids, which made her the perfect safe person to talk to. We'd gotten closer in the past few months than we'd ever been in our whole lives. Katie called me one evening and asked if she could come over, and her voice sounded really strange. When she arrived, she was crying and could barely get the words out. "I'm pregnant," she finally said, and my whole world tilted sideways. My sister was single, this obviously wasn't planned, and she kept saying, "I'm so sorry," over and over like she'd done something terrible. I forced myself to hug her and tell her everything would be okay, even though I felt like someone was squeezing my heart in their fist. Here I was, spending thousands of dollars and pumping my body full of hormones just for a chance at a baby, and my sister got pregnant by accident. My husband came into the room and put his arm around Katie's shoulders, telling her we'd help with whatever she needed. "You're going to be an amazing mom," he said, and Katie burst into tears again. Over the next few days, I tried to focus on getting through the 2-week wait without losing my mind. Katie texted me every day asking how I was feeling, if I'd noticed any signs of pregnancy. My husband brought me my favorite foods and rubbed my feet at night while we watched TV. Everything felt normal except for the constant anxiety eating away at my stomach. Then one afternoon, I came home early from a doctor's appointment because they had a cancellation and finished sooner than expected. My husband's car was in the driveway when it shouldn't have been there. I figured he'd come home for lunch and walked into our bedroom to surprise him. My husband and Katie were in my bed, and for a second my brain couldn't even process what I was seeing. They scrambled apart, grabbing sheets, and Katie was crying and saying my name over and over. I just stood there while my husband started putting on his pants, not even looking at me. "How long?" I finally asked, and my voice didn't even sound like mine. Katie couldn't speak, just kept sobbing, so my husband answered. 4 months, he said, like he was telling me what time it was. 4 months. The entire time I was going through IVF. The injections, the ultrasounds, the embryo transfer, he was sleeping with my sister. "The baby is yours?" I asked Katie, and she nodded. My husband got her pregnant while I was paying thousands of dollars to try to have his baby. "Get out," I said quietly. My husband actually rolled his eyes. "Don't be dramatic. We need to talk about this like adults." That's when something inside me snapped. "You were inside my sister while I was sticking needles in my stomach for you," I screamed. "Every single day I was injecting myself with hormones, making myself sick, hoping and praying, and you were with her." Katie tried to touch my arm. "It just happened. We didn't mean for it to." I shoved her hand away. "You watched me cry about being infertile while you were carrying his baby. You held my hand during the transfer." My husband grabbed his shirt and had the nerve to look annoyed. "You're acting insane right now. Katie and I have something real. You've been obsessed with getting pregnant for years. That's all you care about." I threw his phone at his head and screamed at them both to get out of my house. Katie kept banging on the locked door begging to explain, but I couldn't hear it anymore. 2 days later, I was supposed to take my pregnancy test. I sat on the bathroom floor with the stick in my hand, not even wanting to look. When I finally did, there were 2 lines. After 3 years of negatives, of grief, of feeling broken, I was pregnant. I held the positive test and felt absolutely nothing except trapped. I'd wanted this so badly I would have given anything, done anything, and now I was having a baby with the man who destroyed me, a baby I didn't want. I picked up my phone. I stared at the screen for what felt like forever, my thumb hovering over different names in my contacts. My mom would tell me to calm down and think rationally. My dad would want to fix everything immediately. Katie's name was right there, and I felt sick looking at it. The person I would normally call with news like this, good or bad, was my husband, and that thought made me want to scream. My hand was shaking, so hard I could barely hold the phone. I scrolled to Haley's name, my best friend from college, and pressed call before I could change my mind. She answered on the second ring, her voice groggy and confused because it was almost 1 a.m. I tried to say hello, but nothing came out except this horrible choking sound. Haley's voice went sharp and awake immediately, asking what was wrong, if I was hurt, where I was. I managed to get out that I needed her, that something happened, and I couldn't stop crying long enough to explain anything else. She told me she was coming right now and to stay on the phone with her. I could hear her moving around, probably getting dressed, telling Christopher something in the background. She kept talking to me the whole time, asking yes or no questions because I couldn't form real words. Was I at home? Yes. Was I safe? I didn't know how to answer that. Was I alone? Not anymore, because my husband was somewhere in this house. Haley said she was in the car and would be there in 20 minutes, and I just kept crying and holding that positive test in my other hand. Haley got to my house in 40 minutes, even though she lives across town, and I heard her banging on the front door. I couldn't make myself get up off the bathroom floor, so I just sat there until I heard her calling my name through the house. She found me exactly where I'd been since I took the test, still holding it, my face probably a mess from crying. Haley took one look at me and dropped down on the floor next to me, pulling me into a hug. She asked what happened, and I couldn't get the words out in any kind of order. I told her about coming home early, about finding them in my bed, about Katie being pregnant. I told her it had been going on for 4 months, the entire time I was doing IVF. Every injection, an appointment, and ultrasound. Haley's face went completely white and then red, and she said something I'd never heard her say before about my husband. I showed her the positive pregnancy test and watched her try to process everything at once. She asked if I was sure about the test, and I nodded, because those 2 lines were clear as anything. Haley stood up and pulled me to my feet, telling me I couldn't stay here tonight, that we needed to get me out of this house right now. We went to my bedroom, and Haley started throwing my clothes into a suitcase, not even folding anything, just grabbing whatever she could reach from my closet and drawers. I stood there, kind of useless, watching her pack my life up, and then we heard footsteps in the hallway. My husband started pounding on the bedroom door, saying we needed to talk about this like adults. His voice sounded annoyed, like I was being unreasonable. Haley marched over to the door and yelled at him to go away, that I didn't want to talk to him. He kept insisting, saying I was being dramatic and irrational, and Haley told him she would call the police if he didn't leave me alone right now. I heard him kick the door and say something nasty, and then his footsteps going back down the hallway. Haley grabbed my suitcase and my purse and my phone, checking to make sure I had my wallet and keys. She took my hand and we basically ran out of that house, and I didn't look back at anything. The guest room at Haley's house was small and painted light blue, and I lay on the bed staring at the ceiling for hours without sleeping. The positive pregnancy test was in my pocket because I couldn't make myself put it down, and it felt like it weighed more than anything else in the world. My hand kept going to my stomach even though there was nothing to feel yet, nothing to show that anything was different. 3 years of wanting this baby, of crying over negative tests, of spending every dollar we had on one chance. And now it worked. The IVF actually worked, and I was pregnant with the baby I'd dreamed about constantly, except I didn't want it anymore. The thought of being connected to my husband for the rest of my life, of co-parenting with him, of watching him be with Katie while I raised his child alone, made me feel trapped in a way I'd never felt before. I'd wanted this so badly I would have done anything, sacrificed anything, and now it felt like a punishment instead of a blessing. The baby I'd prayed for was growing inside